Hello and welcome to Friday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we've got another puzzle from Dying Flutchman. It's called 159 Thermo. Now we've done a few of these over the last month or two, and they've got some really beautiful logic. Apparently they're very popular with computer programmers because of the sort of indexing that goes on between the various columns of the grid. I've not done one though before, but she's got thermos in it, and distinctly short thermos at that. So we'll see what's going on with this one in just a moment. I don't have much to tell you today. First thing I will mention is that Mark and I are going to be streaming our return to the good ship Obra Dinn this evening, 10 o'clock UK time. We'd love to have your company while we try and solve the various gruesome murders that seem to occur on that ship. And the only other thing to mention is, of course, what's going on Patreon. There is an absolute world of bonus content over there at the moment. Thank you so much if you support us there. We are most grateful. And for those of you who don't support us, do consider it. It's a couple of bucks a month, and that gets you the bonus puzzles, which this month's November reward is this incredible Sudoku hunt based around Japanese sum Sudoku. I'll give you a teaser of that in there. This is it. You basically have to solve 45 puzzles and work your way up to a Japanese sum Sudoku degree, getting the passwords as you go along. And if you're not sure what Japanese sums are, there's all sorts of goodies in the pack that sort of teach you about how to solve the puzzles. So that's very worthwhile to look at. The other thing, of course, is my solve of zetamath's 2 truths and a lie. This incredible Sudoku. We have been blessed with the most incredible Sudokus over the last couple of weeks. I mean, we're very fortunate all the time on the channel, but over the last couple of weeks in particular, it feels like almost every day has been a sort of an absolute world beater in the history of Sudoku. This is certainly one of the best puzzles I've ever solved, and you can see me solve it over on Patreon. And if you want to have a go yourself, you can do that right now. Just click on the link under this video, and in fact that video which is on Patreon at the moment will be coming to the channel in due course as well, by popular demand, so look out for that. Right, that's all I've got to tell you. Let's get on with 159 Thermo, and I'll read you the rules of this one. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Along thermometers, digits increase from the bulb end. So if you're not familiar with Thermo Sudoku, let's have a look at this thermometer. I've got to put a digit in here. Let's make it a 2. Now this cell has to be higher than 2, because like mercury would rise as the temperature got hotter, we have to increase the digits as we move towards the tip of the thermo. So that could be a 4, it could be a 6, and then that could be an 8. And that would be a perfectly legitimate way to fill our thermometer up. So that's how thermos work. Now, what are these red stripes doing in the grid? Let me read you the rules regarding these. Digits in column 1 indicate the column in which the digit 1 appears in that row. E.g., if row 4 column 1 was a 6, then we now know that the 1 in this row, the one in this row is in the 6th column. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be where we had to put the 1, which is actually interesting because that would be impossible. But that's how it works. Now it works the same way for columns 5 and 9 with the digits 5 and 9 respectively. So let's see if we can understand that. Let's say that this square here was an 8. That would tell us that the 5 in this row was in the 8th column. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would have to be a 5. Now let's do an example for column 9. Let's say this square was a 2. That would say that the 9 in this row was in the 2nd column. So we would have to put it there. So it's a very weird and interesting rule set, because it seems to yield puzzles that have some very different logic to the way normal Sudoku works. And in fact, if we just pause and take a look at this grid, now imagine the red stripes are not there. Just think about trying to solve this. I mean, it couldn't possibly have a unique solution. It would be absolutely absurd. Not even Mr. Goodliff, with his propensity to pencil mark thermos to death, would get very far with this, I don't think. So yeah, normally we need much longer thermos to make head nor tail of a Thermo Sudoku. Now, do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play let's get cracking. And the first thing I'm not going to do is to, for example, I mean, we've got two, well, I suppose we've got 3 4-cell thermometers, and I am not pencil marking them. Maverick literally has just taken off. Just taken off. It's quite extraordinary. I've literally just started the webcam, and then 5 minutes later, he's buzzing past my window, Top Gun style. Now, anyway, let me get back to this. So, I mean, if we were to pencil mark this, it would look fairly ridiculous. That would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, which is why we're not doing that. What I suspect we're going to have to do, I suspect we're going to have to get back to a trick about 159 Sudokus that I've never mentioned on the channel before, to my shame actually, because I did know it, but I just never really use it for solving. But here, I think we are going to have to use it for solving, because I've got nothing else to, let me just think about this. So, yeah, okay, we do have to use it for solving. I can see something about this thermometer. So what on earth am I talking about? Well, let's think about strips. What do I mean? Oh, substrips. Let's think about strips of three rows like this across this puzzle. Because these little strips of 3 consecutive rows in boxes do have a very interesting property if we study them for a moment. Let's look at those 3 cells there. So, what these 3 cells are telling us is the positions of the 5s in these rows. But if we think about it, we know that in these 3 rows of the Sudoku, there must be a 5 in box 1. There must be another 5 in box 2, and there must be another 5 in box 3. So, that means wherever the 5 is in box 1, it will correspond to one of these cells, whichever one of the 5 is obviously in one of these rows, we don't know which one yet, but one of these cells will have to index a 1, 2 or a 3, because the 5 in box 1 must be in column 1, 2 or 3. That means one of these cells, we don't know which one, but one of these cells will be a 1, 2 or 3. Let's say it's this one. Now what about the 5 that's in box 3? Well, clearly that lives in either column 7, column 8 or column 9. So one of these 3 cells must be a 7, 8 or a 9, and the other one will clue the 5 that's in this box, that's in column 4, 5 or 6. So that's going to be a 4, 5 or a 6. And hopefully you can see what happens therefore. So for each of these little strips, one of the digits must be a low digit, a 1, 2 or 3. One of the digits must be a medium digit, a 4, 5 or 6. And one of the digits must be a high digit, a 7, 8 or 9. Now, in this puzzle, that immediately I think gives us a break-in for this thermo here. Because what is the quality? So is this cell high, medium or low? Well, fairly self-evidently, it's not a high digit. If we try and start this thermo with 7, 8 or 9, we're going to have a very large problem at the other end of the thermo. In either direction, it's going to have to be a 2-digit number. So it's definitely not high. Is it medium? Well, the answer to that is no, it's not medium, because if it was medium, this square, because we can't repeat another medium, let's just work out for ourselves. If you're confused about why that is, let's test it. Let's imagine this is a 4, 5 or 6 and this is another medium digit after it. Well, that's telling us that the 1 in this row is in one of those 3 cells, but the 1 in this row is also in one of those 3 cells. So we get 2 1s in box 2. So this is why you can't repeat a quality. So this needs to be a medium. If this was a medium, this would need to be a high, but now what happens as we move up the thermometer, these 2 digits are both high, and that's saying that the 1 in this row and this row are in those cells, so you get 2 1s in box 6 now, and that breaks the puzzle. So in fact, this cell here must be low. This cell here, therefore, must be medium, because again, if it was high, you'd get 2 highs along in those 2 squares. Now this square here, this is where it gets beautiful. Look, we know this has to be medium or high. It can't be high because then this will be high, and again we're going to get a problem over here. So but this one can now be medium, because now we're saying the 1 is in one of those 3 and in one of these 3. And this is in box 5, this is in box 2, and that's fine. These ones will not clash in the same box. And then we can't repeat the medium, so that's going to be high. So I suspect this is what we had to appreciate to start this puzzle. And it's very beautiful actually, isn't it? It really is an elegant idea. It's still fairly surprising that this is going to solve though, but what we can do when we get something like this is we can start pencil marking. Yeah, in fact we can, yes, in fact we got a digit. One of these 3 cells is the 1. Well, it's not. One thing I know about Thermo is you can't put a 1 partially along a thermometer. It won't work, because then the bulb end needs to be a 0 or a negative number, which it clearly can't be. So that's the 1. So the 1 is sort of indexing itself. The 1 is appearing in the first column. Now, this is telling us the 1 is in one of those 3 cells. This is telling us the 1 is in one of those 3 cells. Again, this can't be the 1. We can't put 1s partially along the thermometer. So we should remove 6 from here. Oh, yeah, and let's not forget this is a Thermo. Let's not forget this is a Thermo. In fact, that's really gorgeous. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to do it the other way round because it will please me to do that. Right, let's mark the Thermo candidates in first. That can't be 6 because the cell above it can't be higher. And this can't be 4 because the cell above it can't be lower. Cell above it here can't be lower. Now, I'm mixing my aboves there, but hopefully you understood what I meant. Now look, this can't be 6 now, because that's going to plonk the 1 halfway along a Thermo. So that's really rather cool. We get a 5 here and a 4 here. We can place the 1 there, because this is telling us the 1 is in column 5. The 1 needs to be in column 4 there. And we are starting to go here. We can't put 1 in this position in box 8, because that's going to require a 0 here. So the 1 is in this domino, which is the 6th column. So there must be a 6 in one of those 2 cells. And there must be a 1 in one of these. Ah, hang on, what's going on here? There must be a 1 in one of those 3 cells. But, again, we can't put 1 partially along a Thermo. So that can't be an 8. Okay. So, what does this mean? Is the next question. I'm tempted to look at this cell, I have to say. Although, let's try and do some Sudoku first. Maybe I shouldn't accelerate too quickly. The 1 in box 3 is in one of those 2 places, which means this square has got to be a 7 or an 8. Yeah, okay. And using the parity logic, look, in this box, or in this strip, in this substrip here, we've got a high digit, medium digit, so that's a low digit that's not a 1. So that's a 2 or a 3, and the 1 must be in one of those cells, which we could have got anyway just by Sudoku. So we're sort of boomeranging around a bit here. I was about to say this can't be a high digit, but I'm not sure that's true, because of course these 2 cells don't have the quality of indexing anything. So if that was 7, that could be 8, that could be 9 perhaps. There might be a reason that's impossible, but I don't see immediately what it is. Okay, let's come back to this Thermo then. This is the other relatively lengthy Thermo. And yeah, okay, this cell here, we know it can't have the same quality as this cell. Now this is the low digit in this strip. So this is either a medium digit or a high digit. Now, which of those is it? If it's a high digit, we've got to go, hang on, we've got to go 7, 8, 9. Which would be incorrect, because the 7 would then be indexing that this square here should be a 5, and it would be forced by the Thermo to simultaneously be a 9. There are no such things in Sudoku as Schrödinger cells. So this square is medium, so it's 4, 5 or 6. Oh, yes. Okay, well that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So again, the thermo helps us to understand what this is. Because this cannot be, if this is a 6, the thermo's backwards. Because that would have to be a 5 by indexation. And if it's a 4, the thermo's backwards still. Because that would have to be a 5 and we'd go downwards. That's really weird. Okay, so the thermo must not be interfered with. So that's a 5 exactly. Indexing itself. So that's a bit annoying. That square there is a 2, 3 or a 4. This is a high digit, so that's 6, 7 or 8, and that's 7, 8 or 9. Okay. So what's that telling us? 5 maybe in this string of digits is in one of 3 positions, which corresponds, of course, to this being 7, 8 or 9, because we've got the low, we've got the medium. This has got to be the high. Okay. Bobbins. I'm stuck. I don't quite understand. This thermo crosses the boundary, so is it understandable how this one works? It might be, but I'm not immediately seeing how to do it, I have to say. This is indexing the 9, isn't it? Ah. Okay. Oh, that's really... Oh, good grief. Right, that's really clever. Sorry. Yeah, it just did not occur to me that a thermo of this length would have any relevance at all, but of course it does. It's really clever. I'm starting to understand why these tiny little thermos are actually really important, because of course we can never make this a low digit, because if it's a low digit, this is a lower digit, and in this little substrip we'd have 2 lows where we can only have 1 low, so this can never be low, and therefore it's either medium or high. But if it's medium, if it's 4, 5 or 6, we've got to put a 9 in one of those 3 squares, which we can't do. So that is high, which means it's 7, 8 or 9. Well, it's not 9 because it's partially along a thermometer. So that's hugely restricted, which is mental. So this is saying that the 9 in this row is in one of those 2 positions, and this is saying the 9 in the row is in one of those 2 positions. And do we know about this one? I don't think we do know about this one. But I might be wrong about that. I'm well aware I might be wrong about that. I've got a horrible feeling that there's some way I can tell whether this is low or medium. I'm not seeing it. I'm so sorry if that's annoying people. I can't see how to disambiguate that. Okay. Okay, so we've got to think harder. Where shall we look now? I'm tempted to look at this tiny little thermo, because I think thermos that are entirely within, a red column, are weird. For example, there's no way this can be a low digit now. That's what I've just learnt over here. If that's low, that also is low, and that breaks our requirement to have a low, medium and high in the substrips. So this square is either medium or high. And we're cluing the 9, aren't we? So is there a reason? Is there a reason that that has to be something in particular or not? So if this was medium, we'd have a 9 in here. And then this would be low. And this would have to be a 2 or a 3. Ah, Oh, that's of course. This puzzle is it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. The logic is so strange that it's totally unfamiliar to me. But how could this be a low digit? Because it has to be a 2 or a 3. And that's putting a 9 partially along that thermometer. Well, that's going to require that to be double digits, so that's not going to work. So not only can this not be low, that can't be low. So this is low, this is a 2 or a 3, and there's a 9 in one of those positions. It's more madness. So now this thermo tells us the order here, doesn't it? So that's got to be the medium one, and that's got to be the high one. So that means that the 9 in this row is in one of those cells. And it can absolutely be in that one, of course. That's the tip of a thermo. That's where we'd expect it to be. And this is telling us that the 9 is in one of those 3 cells. Ah, now I've got a 7, 8, 9 triple in column 9. Which feels like it might be important. 9, 9. I don't know. is there some reason that that we're meant to understand what this means? I don't know what it is, if there is. I really don't. Okay, so I think we're going to have to think again, aren't we? Bobbins. Right. So where do we look now? These have such strange relationships with each other. I don't know where to look. Can we do anything with these 3 cells in column 1 then, perhaps? The one in this row. Yeah, oh God, it's the same thing again. I keep missing this. It's so strange, but look at this thermo. Once this square can't be a 1, this cannot be a low digit anymore. Because if it's a 2 or a 3, it puts the 1 there and it's the wrong way on the thermo again. Oh, so this is either medium or high. Oh, well, if it's medium, it's exact. Oh, I see. So if it's medium, it's exactly 6, and otherwise it's a high digit. So actually, that's a 6, 7, 8, or 9. Well, it's not 9 because I definitely can't put a 1 at the end of that thermo. So this is down to 6, 7, or 8. Now, what can we do with that knowledge? Is there anything? Sorry, I'm just pausing here because I want to make sure that there's... Well, it's very likely I'm going to miss some sort of logic here. Well, that's not 8, is it? That's one thing we can say. It's not 8 because that would require 9, 10 on the thermo. So this is 6 or 7, which means that the 1 in this row is in exactly one of those positions. What does that mean? I don't really have a good way of pencil marking that. I might green that in just so I try and remember. If that's a 1, you'd have a 1 here and a 1 here, but that looks entirely sensible. One in the bulb of the thermo. This thermo has become restricted though because this is such a high digit. So that's either 7 or 8. That's either 8. Oh, I see. Right. So I've got an 8, 9 pair in the row. So that's become a 7. And that's become a 6. Perfect. So now that's telling us, I didn't need the green after all. This is telling us that the 1 goes there. Which is, that's a disappointing 1, isn't it? It's not really done very much. Ah, okay. But the 9... Why have I got the 9 in one of those 2 positions? I see, it's because this is an 8 or a 9 in this position. So if it's an 8, the 9 goes here. If it's a 9, the 9 goes here. Well, now I've got an 8, 9 pair. I can't put the 9 there because that's going to require 2 8s in the row. So, that square is not 9, this square is 9, this square is 8, that square is not 9 anymore, which means we've got a 1 9 pair in this box. We've got quite a lot of digits in this row now. 2, 3, 4 and 5 to place. That has to be, perfect. That's got to be 2, 3 or 4 in the indexing 5 position. Well, those two squares, let me tell you, here's a knowledge bomb, are not 5s. So that must be a 4 and that must have a 5 next to it. Those two squares must be a 2, 3. Now, if that's a 5 and that's a 5, 5 in this column is in one of those three positions. That needs to index a 6 from this column, so one of those three positions is a 6. It would be quite useful if it was that one. I'd have 6, 5, 4 here, forced. Here's an... Is that, have I broken? No, I haven't broken it. Sorry, I thought I'd broken this, but I haven't. I was suddenly thinking, well, I've got the medium digit here in box 7. I need the high digit, which is not a 7 or an 8. So there must be a 9 here. One of these has got to be a 9. Now, I can see that's doing something there, but also what worried me was what this was indexing over here, but actually it's probably nice. 9 is indexing 1, so that's not a 1. That seems to have to be a 1. That seems to have to be a 1. That seems to have to be a 9. And this is where we've got to be very careful. That's indexing a 7. The 7 needs to index the 7th column here. That's indexing an 8 now. That's telling us the 9 goes here. This is now a 7, because it was a 7, 8 or 9 before. This is now a 6. Good grief. Now let's do this more slowly though. That's become an 8. That's indexing the 1, which it is. That's become a 7 because there's a 9 down here. That's indicating that 1, which is correct. This is so weird. So we did a whole load of stuff. We did a whole load of stuff there, but it doesn't seem to have actually... It's not completely filled the puzzle in, has it? I think we're still going to have to do some more thinking. And I have no idea where we're going to start for doing that thinking. We've looked at every thermo a little. We haven't looked at that thermo, which doesn't look a very appetizing thermo. I think I'm prejudiced, though, against short thermos because of my experiences in other puzzles. Probably when you're doing one of these 159s, you've got to be a bit more happy to look at short, stubby thermos. Do we know anything about this thermo? We know we've got the medium digit. Can that be a low digit? If that's a low digit, it's got to be a 3. Let's look at that. So that would have to be 3, 2, 1 on the thermo. Oh, that doesn't work, of course, because we know that the 1 is definitely in those positions in box 9. So actually we do know something about this thermo. We know that's a high digit. So this is a 7, 8 or 9 indexing the 5. I'm just pausing to think about this for a moment. Yeah, okay, I can do something with that. That's definitely not a 7. Because remember, this is indexing the 5. So now because of the thermo, it's indexing a 5 into this position, which places a 6 here, which breaks the puzzle. So that doesn't work. So this is not 7. So there's a 5 in one of these positions, 5 in one of those positions. So now we've forced a 5 onto this thermo, which means that's column 7, so there is a 7 in one of those two positions. Oh, I've got an 8, 9 pair here, so that's not a 9 anymore. So this is not a 5 anymore. But that thermo works either way, doesn't it? Okay, well, let's come back to this. That square's low now, because we haven't put the low one in. So this is a 2 or a 3. That's indexing a 5 in one of those two cells, which actually looks, that's completely standard from looking at Sudoku, isn't it? Goodness me. Okay, so what do we do now? I don't feel, I mean, I just don't think this is worth pencil marking. I think these two cells have got too many options. This is probably the very next step one is meant to take in the puzzle, but it just doesn't look appealing to me. 7 is in one of those two positions. Don't think that does anything. 7 is in one of those two positions. Ah, that's interesting. Look, 7 is in one of those two positions. It can't be there, because that would have to be higher, and it would have to be 8 or 9, which it can't be. So that is a 7. So I've got 7. Ah, yeah, now because the 5s here were being indexed by 7s, there's a 7 in one of those two cells. Whoops. So if that looks completely reasonable for that one to be a 7, doesn't it? Ah, but that Thermo, that's got me thinking. What we can't do is put any sort of high digit here. Yes, okay, there's a simple deduction. Where does 8 and 9 go in row 4? They're not there by Sudoku. They're not on that Thermo, because that would have to be an 8 or a 9. So they're there. And there's an 8 here. Beautiful. So that's an 8, that's a 9. That's a 9 by Sudoku. This 9 is in column 2, so that becomes a 2. This is in column 3, so that becomes a 3. Is that helpful? The answer is maybe, I suppose, but I'm not immediately seeing how to finish the puzzle from there. These squares have got to be 1, 2, 3 or 4. Do we know what these squares are then? They're 2, 4 and 6. I can't put 6 on the middle of the Thermo because this can't be high. I can't put 2 on the end of the Thermo. Ah, yeah, good. Okay, let's look at this box now. There's a 2 here, so that's not a 2. So the 2 is either on the Thermo or here. Well, it's not there because that would have to be a 1, which it can't be. So that's a 2, that's a 2, that's a 3. That's putting 3, look, on that Thermo, which we actually therefore can use. The short stubby Thermo here must be this way round. That's ruling 5 out from there. This is now a 7 because it needs to index this 5. Sorry, I'm just pausing to have a think about this just for a second or two. These are 4, 6s and 8s. These are 4s, 5s and 6s, aren't they? And we know there's a 5 in one of those. And we know we can't put 6 on the end or on the bulb of the Thermo. That won't work. And we can't put 4 on that end of the Thermo in exactly the same way. And this 2 is telling us that that's a 4 just by elimination. So that's a 6, that's a 5, and that's a 4. Wow. Okay, well now I know the 9. Yeah, in fact, I know the 9's all over the place, I think. This is a 4, so the 9 goes here in the 4th column. That gives us an 8 here, gives us a 9 here. That gives us a 5 here, a 1 here. That gives us a 9 there by indexation. Okay. What does that mean? That feels like that should be mighty. That's not 4 anymore. That's a 2 or a 3. That's a 6. Yeah, I think I missed off pencil marking and probably a 9 that I got. I've got that 9 in the right position. I've got that 9 in the right position. I've not got this 9 in the right position. And that seems to have placed a 5 here, which means that square's a 6. Lovely. Now I've got just, yeah, look, I've got 2 and 3 to place in the column. That's the 2, that's the 3. That's indexing the 5. So this 2 is telling me that's a 5. That's pushing these digits up in a way that's probably very important. Let's check. This square must be 6 or 7, and this square must be 7, 8 or 9, and it can't be 7 or 9. So that's 8. That's 8. That's 4. That's 7. These two squares are 3 and 4, which I can do actually. It goes in that order. This square's a naked single 6. These squares are a 2, 3 pair. It's at this point you start looking at these red columns and thinking, are these all working? I have no clue. I hope I've not dropped any logic throughout this. That's a 2 or a 3 by Sudoku, which means the 6 in that row must go here. These are not 2, 3 anymore, so these are a 1, 4 pair. Can we do that? Probably. Don't know how. Maybe it's this that, oh no, it's not. Look, I've got a 3 here, so that's become a 2, that's become a 3, that's become a 3, that's become a 2, that's become a 3. This 2 indexes the 1, so that goes 1, 4 now. 3, 2 up here. This 3 tells us that this should be the 1. And we must be done, aren't we? Have we finished this puzzle now? That's a 5, indexed by that 3, so we could have done that a different way. So that's a 2, 4 pair. This column needs 2 and 6. Can't do that. This column needs 7 and 8 actually. Okay, so that's not putting any pressure at all on that digit, which is unfortunate. This this puts the pressure on it. That's a 4, 8 pair. You can't put 8 in the bulb. That would have to be 8.5. So that's 4, that's 8, that's 8, that's 7, that's 7 by the looks of things. This should be a useful digit. It's a 6. It is a useful digit. That gets 6, 2, 2, 4 done. And I think that is how to solve the puzzle. Wow, that's really, really surprising. It's and incredibly clever. I mean, Dying Flutchman is always so original. And this, even when you know this little bit of logic at the start, it just kept catching me out over and over again. Oh, I look forward to the comments. Remember, I do enjoy them, especially when they're kind. Yeah, it's just a masterclass in the use of tiny thermometers and the way in which they interact with this lovely indexing rule that you always have to have a medium, low and a high digit in each substrip. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had a go, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.